Hey there, we've got a great video for you today. We're going to be talking about chatbots and why they are the lowest hanging fruit for any business. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a mom and pop shop or a software company or a VC firm or a you name it, this is relevant for that business. And the reason is not because tools like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and Grok are what people are used to when they're interfacing with AI, and more to do with the fact that it is the ultimate tool that you can use to increase conversion rates, lower churn, increase customer LTV, basically the main metrics that we're all looking for when we're running or building a business. And in this video, we're going to explain why that is, and also the technical aspects behind how to actually build this. In addition to, why not just put ChatGPT on your site and let it respond using an intelligent LLM? So we're going to get into all that. It's going to be very informational. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. This channel is all about making AI accessible for people that maybe are not technical or not engineers, and just giving it to you in a way that you can understand. Now, if you are technical, I still think you'll get a lot out of this as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the presentation. So, how to build a chatbot, and why not just use an LLM like ChatGPT? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because that's exactly what I want to talk to you about. So first things first, when we're talking about, if we're talking about why to not just use ChatGPT, the first reason is because ChatGPT is trained on a billion trillion different data sets. It's not trained and specified on your business, on your industry, and your niche. So while it has a lot of very broad knowledge, if you want to go deep, it can't go super deep. And a lot of that's because it needs proprietary data. It needs to know things that otherwise would be impossible for it to know about your business and about your offer. So if you were to just put ChatGPT on your website, and for instance, let's use my website. I run a business called Integri. I put ChatGPT on there, and I go on, and someone goes on there and they're chatting with the chatbot, and they ask, why would I use Integri for my AI implementation? I mean, if I'm lucky, ChatGPT will be able to answer that, because, Integri is not some massive business that it wasn't even trained on Integri when it was in its training. And so the answer it's going to give, if I'm lucky, is going to be very surface level. More than likely, it's not even going to come close to answering what I would actually need it to in order to increase that conversion rate. And if you think about the customer experience side of things, it's the same thing. There's no way it's going to be able to give detailed, really high quality feedback and output to a potential customer, because it's just too broad and not deep enough. So when we're talking about building chatbot models, we need to start with RAG. And RAG is abbreviated for Retrieval Augmented Generation. Now, get used to this word because it's very relevant for building all types of AI stuff. But essentially, a plain AI model answers from what it learned during training, like we just talked about. But with RAG, the bot first looks up your latest documents, policies, tickets, and product data. It will then use snippets to craft the reply. So you can think of it like a closed book exam versus an open book exam. RAG has the ability to open the book, look at the documents. This can be sales calls, team meetings, documentation of your product, previous customer support questions, previous customer support answers. The list goes on and on and on. You decide what you want to train this model with, but it's very specified and it's extremely, extremely effective. So I just kind of explained this, but the reason that this matters is because basically the accuracy. So the bot's going to read your documents. I'm going to just make this a little bit easier to read. It's going to cut off base answers, and it's going to keep responses aligned with your current policies and your current SKU. So it's not just going to spit out some random nonsense that is not actually helpful to the person asking the question, but also freshness. So when we update a PDF or a knowledge base, we don't have to retrain the model. It can simply source the new data and pull it, and we know that it's going to be accurate and it's going to be relevant. Now, in that same vein, compliance is going to increase because answers can include sources. So for example, if you go and you ask a RAG model a question, instead of just giving you the answer, it can link to the support documentation if you want to dive deeper and look deeper into what the actual solution is, or the reason that is the solution. The biggest thing really is just consistency at scale. It's just kind of what we've been hampering on, but every customer or employee will get a policy correct answer regardless of who they ask and when they ask it. But where this really matters for your business in terms of a customer support or even sales side of things is a lower support load. So you're going to have way fewer escalations, way less back and forth. And once the bot can quote the exact return policy or API limit from the source, you don't really need a person to do that. It's pretty straightforward. It doesn't require a ton of logic. It's taking A and putting it where B belongs. And it's way safer than model memory. So you can decide what repositories are searchable, which reduces leakage of sensitive data or outdated info. So ultimately, you're fully in charge. You're fully in charge of the replies that the bot is going to be giving. And I think that this is very powerful and very important to note as well. Whoops. Let me just bring myself over here. Never mind. There we go. Okay, so how does RAG actually work? Let's talk about it and let's try to break it down in plain English. So RAG, like we said, retrieval, augmentation, generation. But essentially what it's going to do is it's going to gather your sources. So these could be documents, this could be wikis, this could be help centers, product specs, Slack messages, team calls, CRM notes, recent tickets, you name it, you can put it in there. It's going to split them and it's going to fingerprint them. So this is so interesting, the way that these LLMs actually work. So basically, each document is going to be broken into small chunks. And these small chunks are going to be converted into numeric fingerprints. So O's, zeros and ones and zeros. And when someone asks a question, the system is going to find the most relevant chunks and it's going to list your top 5 sources, just as an example. So it's going to basically be able to very quickly identify the most relevant chunks. And the reason this is important is because otherwise it would have to analyze millions of pieces of context of data. But with RAG, it can quickly identify, okay, it's in this section, and it's in this section of this section, and then it can just pull that information out. And it's incredibly accurate. It's one of the most incredible inventions in technological history, really. So it will compose the answer with citations, like I said, and basically the model writes the response using only the chunks of the documentation that it's provided. It can show links, it can show titles of the sources it uses, and if you've ever done a web search on ChatGPT or any of these tools, you'll notice it will list the documentation that you can click on. You can go to that link in that URL. Well, it's the same thing with the RAG system and the chatbot within the business, except instead of linking to an external website, it will simply link to your policies and your data and your documentation. But what's the difference in RAG and fine tuning? Well, basically fine tuning is essentially a way of teaching a writing style or a task format. So fine tuning, it doesn't make the model know your live policies or last week's pricing. It's more of this is how we answered this question. This is the formatting. Give you an example. I am releasing an AI app right now that helps people with their technology addiction. And it really was difficult to fine tune the model. But the way that we fine tuned it was not through RAG sourcing. It was through fine tuning, which is, hey, this response was too long. This is too formatted. We need it to look like this and feel more conversational. And so RAG basically plugs your current knowledge into each answer, which is what a business bot needs most of the time. So if you were trying to create a proprietary model, you would fine tune it. If you're just using a chatbot for your business, you would use RAG. And just based on what I just talked about with RAG, and how it works, just think about some of the benefits of this. So with sales, immediate response times to a query. It can instantly help book a demo. We know that if someone reaches out and we don't book them immediately, they might never get on that call in the first place. It can also even produce good sales arguments because it has so much context that it can pull from. From the customer support side, it's going to significantly reduce churn because if someone has an issue and they send a message about the issue, they can get an answer to it in 24 seconds instead of 12 hours. Sometimes it takes a while for the support team to get around to it. In this case, though, it can significantly cut down on churn. And then for very complex questions on the sales side or the customer service side, it can basically alert a team member, hey, we've got an issue here we need your help with. And that person's going to have way more time because the just very basic bottom level questions are going to be answered and they're going to be taken care of. So at the end of the day, RAG is how you're going to build a chatbot, and chatbot is the lowest hanging fruit for any business. And the reason that I say that is because every business has documentation. Every business has Slack messages. Every business has support articles. Every business has sales calls. And you can take all of that and you can train a chatbot on your own business. So it doesn't matter if you're a grocery store, if you're a restaurant, it's a local restaurant down the street, if you're a technology company, there's really nothing that this is not relevant for. And we even built actually a chatbot for a business owner who essentially ran ads for other businesses he basically ran a YouTube ads agency. And what we did is we trained a chatbot in the last 6 years of his data. And so when someone asked a question about in Slack, hey, what should I title this video? Or what do you think about this? It can immediately reply in the tone of voice of that person in the same way that they would reply, because it's based on the last 6 years of everything that they have ever done. So I am very bullish on chatbots and businesses. We saw Intercom as being a very, very valuable business, but I think this is a whole nother level. And I think you can easily build a custom implementation into your business. It's not easy to build, but it's also not difficult. And so if you have a business, I don't care what type it is, if you have a job and you want to improve the business, go to your boss and say, we need to build a chatbot and we need to use RAG. And when he says, what's that? You could say, let's just hit up Sam because he can do it for us. But at the end of the day, this video, I just wanted to highlight how much low-hanging fruit there is with chatbots and how highly I recommend you implement this into your business immediately.